Spooktober's here, and with every dusk, Eerie Instants unveils a new tale. 31 days, 31 stories. Hit subscribe and journey into the unknown with us.
The day had been like any other, filled with the familiar scent of old books and the hushed whispers of library patrons. I'd always found solace in the predictable rhythm of my job, the quiet corridors filled with knowledge. But that day, a confrontation with a particularly irate patron had left me rattled. He'd been insistent on borrowing a restricted book, and when I'd refused, his eyes had flashed with an anger I'd never seen before. Shaking off the memory, I locked up the library and made my way home. My apartment, a cozy space filled with stacks of books and dim lighting, had always been my sanctuary. But that evening, as I settled into my armchair with a cup of tea, I heard it, a faint whisper, almost like a sigh. I froze, straining my ears, but it was gone as quickly as it had come. I blamed it on fatigue and tried to immerse myself in a novel. However, the whisper returned, more persistent this time.
Turn off the stove,
It murmured, so soft I thought I'd imagined it. But when I checked, sure enough, I'd left the burner on. A shiver ran down my spine. Was I losing my mind? Over the next few days, the voice grew bolder.
Take your umbrella.
It advised one morning. I scoffed, looking out at the clear sky. But by afternoon, a downpour had begun.
Avoid the subway.
It warned another day. And later, I learned of a major delay on my usual route. I tried to dismiss it as intuition or coincidence, but the voice's accuracy was uncanny. And then, one evening, as I was arranging my bookshelf, it guided me to a discovery.
Behind the third book on the top shelf.
It whispered. Curiosity piqued. I reached up and felt something cold and metallic. Pulling it out, I found an old locket, tarnished with age, bearing an unfamiliar symbol. The voice hummed with satisfaction, its tone dripping with malevolence.
You found it.
It purred, and I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. What had I unleashed? The voice became my constant companion, a shadow lurking in every corner of my mind. Its demands grew more audacious.
The book.
It hissed one evening.
The one from the restricted section. Take it.
I knew which one it referred to, the very book that irate patron had demanded. My heart raced, but the next day, with trembling hands, I smuggled it out of the library. Days blurred into nights as the voice's influence grew. It wasn't just about the book.
Cut ties.
It whispered one evening as I chatted with Sarah, a colleague I'd known for years. The next day, I found myself avoiding her, making excuses to stay away. The voice seemed pleased. The city, which I'd known like the back of my hand, became a maze of unfamiliar alleys and streets, as the voice guided me to places I'd never been. Dark, desolate corners where the weight of history pressed down and the air grew cold.
Here.
It would say,
Stand here and listen.
and I would, though I never understood why. Sleep became elusive. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see that patron's furious gaze, feel the weight of his anger. The voice would taunt me, suggesting that the confrontation had deeper, darker roots.
Remember.
It would whisper, though I couldn't recall what it wanted me to. Desperation drove me to research the symbol on the locket. Hours turned into days as I delved into my family's history, uncovering journals and letters hinting at a curse, one that had plagued my ancestors for generations. They wrote of the voice, of its insidious demands, and the price of resistance. One journal, in particular, caught my attention. It belonged to an ancestor named Elias, and his experiences mirrored mine. He wrote of the voice's increasing demands, the isolation, the descent into madness. And then, a chilling entry it won't let go. I'm trapped. a puppet to its whims. I fear what it will ask of me next. I felt a kinship with Elias, a bond forged in shared torment. The weight of our family's dark legacy pressed down on me, and I realized I was ensnared in a web that had claimed many before me. The voice, sensing my despair, grew bolder.
Embrace it.
It urged,
Accept your fate.
but a part of me resisted, clung to hope. I had to find a way out, a way to break free from this dark descent. The voice's demands had always been unsettling, but nothing could have prepared me for its final, chilling request.
End it.
It whispered, its tone dripping with malevolence.
End your suffering. Jump from the city's highest tower at midnight, and you'll be free.
I was horrified. The thought of ending my life to escape this torment was unbearable, yet the voice's promise of freedom was seductive. I found myself standing at the base of the city's tallest building, gazing upwards, torn between despair and hope. In a last-ditch effort to resist, I clutched the locket, intending to destroy it. But as I tried to pry it open, the voice's fury was palpable. It flooded my mind with visions of my ancestors, each meeting a tragic end, all victims of the same malevolent force. Their screams echoed in my ears, their pain mirrored my own. Driven to the brink, I found myself on the building's rooftop, the wind howling around me, the city's lights stretching out below. The voice's urgings grew louder, more insistent, drowning out all rational thought. And then, in a moment of sheer desperation, I leaped. But instead of the expected darkness, I was met with a blinding light and a sensation of weightlessness. Time seemed to stretch and warp, and I found myself back in my apartment, the locket lying innocently on the table. Confused and disoriented, I picked up the last journal I'd been reading, Elias's journal. A previously unseen entry caught my eye, written in a shaky hand. "The voice lies," it read. "It promises freedom, but it only seeks to feed on our despair. Do not give in." The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The voice had never intended to free me. It had deceived me, just as it had deceived my ancestors. I was its latest victim, trapped in an endless cycle of torment. The weight of my actions, the finality of my decision, pressed down on me. I had been so close to breaking free, to finding a way out, but now I was ensnared, forever bound to the voice and its malevolent whims. As the darkness closed in, the voice's laughter echoed in my ears, a haunting reminder of my inescapable fate.